welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're diving right back into our series, the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. If you haven't already listened to the first two books in this series, which is Bared to You and Reflected in You, those links are going to be down in the description below. And then once you finish, then you can join us for book 3, which is titled Entwined in You. So this book starts off with Eva taking a cab back to her place after she's had that revelation from Gideon of what he has actually done. So they apparently are going to stay apart for now, just to be sure, because they don't know if it's like some type of a setup by Detective Graves to see, like, to kind of confirm her suspicions. Like, okay, now once Detective Graves revealed all this information, now they're going to all of a sudden be together. So they're going to keep their distance. I wonder how that's going to last. When she gets to her building, someone calls out her name, and it's a woman named Deanna Johnson, and she's a freelance reporter. And looking at her, automatically Eva knows, oh, this is his type, the brunette, the tall, it's like, oh, that's he's had sex with her. I know he has. And the woman wants her to give us some information about Gideon. And she looks at the woman kind of like, nope. And the woman's like, he uses his power to get anything, and then he disregards people. And so Eva was like, sounds bitter to me. Because you can tell. Clearly, yep, he's been with this woman. She's got an agenda. And the woman tries to, give her a card. So Eva takes her card. But it was pretty much just more so just to get her away. So she gets upstairs to her place. And guess who's there? Freaking Gideon with the whole baseball cap, trying to be like under the radar. It was hilarious. So he basically says, I can't be away from you. So we're going to have to figure out something else, because this isn't going to work for me. Like, I've gone a little too long without you. Doesn't work for me. And he wants to know if, what I did it cost me, us? Like, did I do something that, pretty much irrevocably broke us? And she's like, no. Matter of fact, thank you. It's like they have it's not healthy, right? This is not healthy love at all. But it's very intriguing, the intensity of how they feel for one another and how fast they felt it. We're talking about, I don't even think it's been maybe a couple months? And he's already willing to do like any and everything for her. It's just absolutely, that's some intense love. That's a little too much. But so of course, they got to have a hardcore session. It's them. He like comes in her and he's like still fucking, like he's that hard. And she kept saying over and over to him, like, you're mine, you're mine, you're mine. And when she wakes up in the morning, no nightmares from him. Thank God. He's ready to fuck again, and so is she. But then she tells him about Deanna Johnson, and he turns cold. And she knows they've already done something, and he finally does admit it and tells her, stay away from her. So Gideon gets ready for work. And he has a suit and everything. And she's kind of looking like, I don't remember him coming here with like an overnight bag. So like, how the hell? So we come to find out he has purchased the apartment that is next to her. He will still be living in his penthouse on 5th Avenue, like pretty much to keep up for appearances. But he will spend as much time as possible to her new place. That's money. The mere fact that you buy an apartment is just to be near this woman. Wow. Okay. Then he gives her a burner phone to reach him. And he does admit to her that it will be tracking you, which she doesn't like at all. But he asks her, like, please appease this for me. I need to know where you are, and I need to know that you're safe. And I'm thinking, like, how can she not be when you took care of Nathan? That was the problem. So how is she not safe anymore? Like, I don't know. To me, that's a little, it's like, okay, I understood it before. There was a threat, y'all, which was crazy because y'all didn't tell her. But now you've eradicated the threat. What's the problem now? See, now it's just, you just need to be in control. Like, that's it. Like, it's no other reason. So she starts thinking and she realizes that, what she thought, she kind of goes back in her memory and she thinks, in the last book, when she thought it was lipstick on his collar, it really wasn't. It was, he had fought Nathan. That was blood on him. And when she looked at the couch and the, pillows were ruffled, she's thinking he's had a whole, session in his office. But no, Nathan had apparently come back trying to get money from him. And they got into a brawl. And that was what happened. So he wasn't cheating. So that was like, oh, good. Eva goes to work and Megumi asks her, come out this weekend, and she agrees to go. And then she gets a phone call at her desk and it is Brent Klein. So she talks to Brent and he wants to see her when he gets to New York City for the video premiere of Golden. And he, of course, wants her to come with him. And at first she's like, no, no, no. And he was like, no, you have to go. Because she was like, I can't handle any more than friendship. That was funny because I've used that line before. So that was funny to me. But she finally agrees. She caves. And she's like, okay, we can go as friends. So, long as that's okay, we can do it. So he's like, okay, we can go as friends. He's like, but I'm still going to come after. I'm still going to pursue you. I was like, Jesus, he's relentless. Then she gets a call from Gideon later on, and he's like, are we okay? And she was like, of course. And he's like, I need to hear you say it. Even when I'm not with you, even when you're not around, I need to hear you say it. So I was like, what was that about? So she goes home, she talks with Carrie, who this morning he's with Trey. I know, he goes back and forth. So this morning he's with Trey, tonight he's with Tatiana. And she tells him about her day and, tells him that, she's pretty much fucking a new guy that works in the Crossfire building. And Carrie's kind of concerned because he's like, you got a hard time doing casual. So this might not be a good thing. And she's like, no, it's working out because, he doesn't want anything long term. I don't either. I can't handle that right now. I'm trying to get over Gideon. She comes up with this whole little story. I don't think Carrie's buying this, but, he was like, all right. She's like, eventually, I'll introduce you to him, and he's like, all right, well, whatever. So then she also asked him, come with me to the premiere, because she wanted him to, again, she's trying to make sure everything with Brent stays friendly, and she also doesn't want Gideon thinking that she's, possibly doing something with Brent. So she's like, come with me. So Carrie's like, of course, I'll come. I'm not going to bring a date. That way it'll be more so like a third wheel. So she's like, thank you, great. So after Carrie's gone to his room, then Eva leaves. She goes to Gideon's place, which is next door. And we find out he had moved in the week that Carrie was in the hospital. So when she had tried to call him and he wouldn't tell her like who he was with Raul, who was coordinating everything with the apartment. She tells him about her girls' night out this weekend, and he, of course, insists to, take one of my vehicles and go to my clubs, and you got to have security. So then she tells him about Brent, and he was like, I figured he'd call you when he got back in town. And Eva was like, you knew he was coming? And he's like, of course. And then I'm like, duh, why would you even ask that? He knows. I think he's probably tapping her phones. And because that was kind of crazy for him. After Brent calls, asks her that stuff about going to this premiere, he calls and all of a sudden has this desperate need of, are we okay? Are we okay? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, he's probably got her phone tapped, She tells him, if you don't want me to go, I won't go. I don't want to, I don't want to mess us up or anything like that. And Gideon is just more so like, no, I understand, you need to get back at me. But I don't think it's about getting back at him. I really do think it, and even sometimes we know she does things subconsciously. But even with that, I don't think it's that. I think it really is, we're supposed to be putting up this front that we aren't together. So if there's a whole video about me, what reason do I have not to go? So it kind of, we need to play into the narrative that we're not together. So I really think that's why she did it. Plus, she doesn't mind being around Brent. She is attracted to the man, even though it's a little dangerous. But that's what it is. I really don't think it is a matter of her trying to get back at him. So then, of course, they have a hard fuck. And then that night, Gideon has a nightmare. He's in his room because at his place they have separate rooms. And so she runs in there to help him. Then they have a conversation about, him needing to talk about what happened. And he has officially gone back to therapy. He only missed that one session. And so the next morning, he tells her, I want you to come work for me at one of my advertising firms. And she's like, nah, I'm good. And he's like, well, why not? Like, he wants to be with her all the time. Again, this is unhealthy, right? And she's like, listen, I want to make my own way. That's why I didn't let, Stanton, I didn't go work for him because I want to make my own way. Even though, Stanton pays for the apartment. But she allowed them to do that because it was about security and all this type of bullshit. So she allowed it. But as far as her actual career, what she went to school for, the girl wants to make her own way. You got to respect that. And he was trying to guilt her into it. And I didn't like that. I'm like, allow her. You need your own space outside of the person. You really do. And you're trying to all consume her. This is where it's like, bitch, y'all are really fucking obsessed. That shit's not good. Like, it's not. And so she's like, we just need to put a pin in it. We can stop talking about it because I'm not changing my mind. So she drops her compact mirror and it shatters and she sees a fucking bug in it. And she's looking and the first thought, she's like, is this you? Like, did you do this? And he's like, no, that's not me. He does admit when he like puts bugs on her and stuff like that. He does admit to it. He's like, no, that's not mine. So she's thinking, oh my gosh, it's got to be Clancy. And so she is furious. So Clancy told her that once they knew, she called Clancy, of course. Clancy was like, of course, once they knew that Nathan was in town and, they clearly didn't feel she was safe, he did it, he put the bug in there. He's like, but there hasn't been any transmission since he's been dead. He stopped. So she's still pissed, but she goes to work and Magdalene comes to her and to talk about the Deanna woman and how, I guess, the reporter Johnson, she had come to Magdalene trying to get a story as well. So I was like, oh, this woman is determined to get some tea on this man. Like, she's determined. And so, Magdalene just wanted her to know, listen, I didn't say anything, I left it at that. And she's like, okay. And then we find out she's got her a new boo. So she's not messing with Christopher anymore. So I was glad. She's doing good. That's great. So then her mother calls her and she tells her mother, you better tell me what are the bugs you have, because if I find them, then our relationship is irrevocably damaged. Her mother was like, we need to talk, and I'm gonna take Carrie out for lunch, and then after I'm just gonna wait for you at the apartment, and then we can talk, okay? And she's like, all right, fine. So then Eva goes home. She finds out that the Rolex that she has, which was a graduation gift from Stanton, which meant a lot to her, has a bug. And so she was furious. Like, she was just beyond. So she left her mother there, and her mother was being all... Her mother does these hysterics to where she's so, heartbroken and so hurt that she now is the victim. Then everyone tries to cater to her because they don't... It's emotional manipulation. That's what her mother does.